This is an orchard spider. Small and brightly colored, you can find it on its elaborate web, waiting patiently for prey to become trapped. If we take a closer look at this colorful arachnid, we'll discover that the story of this creature's life is extremely unique. Now, if I want to find one of these spiders, one of the best spots to look is going to be in these palm fronds. They have a tendency to spin their webs in the openings that are in these giant palm fronds. So I'm just going to comb through a bunch of these, and luckily the spider we're trying to find isn't that uncommon in my area, so it shouldn't be crazy hard to locate. Welcome to Nature Tales. I'm Nick, and on this channel, I'm trying to immerse you in the natural world and tell you the stories of its strangest creatures. Alright, that didn't take too long, which is nice. We have found the web of this spider right in between these palm leaves. Alright, the only thing I have to catch it in is this little tube I've got. I do wish I had a slightly bigger container, but I'll have to make this do. I gotta get this part of the container underneath the spider. He sensed it. Alright, luckily he actually dropped to the ground, and this is gonna be an easier spot to catch him, I hope. There we go. There we go. Success. Alright, that was a bit of a hassle to get it out of the web, but we've trapped it in the container successfully, so now let's take a closer look at this really, really cool spider. Alright, the spider we caught here is called an orchard spider, and they have several very interesting secrets that they're hiding. So before I handle this creature, I obviously have to ask the question, is it dangerous? And there are some reasons to think it is. It's got very, very bright coloration. You know, if you look at a lot of potentially dangerous animals like black widows or coral snakes, they have super bright colors, and that's a warning to predators. And if you look at this spider, it's actually quite pretty. It's got some really cool silver colors on its back, and then on the belly, there is an almost black widow-like marking. It's more of a crescent than an hourglass, but that could give you some concern. However, in this case, the spider's bluffing. It's not dangerous. It's a totally harmless species. However, that doesn't mean it's non-venomous. You might think that a harmless spider is non-venomous. That's not really true. Almost every single spider in the world is venomous. They use venom to kill their prey. There are a few that are actually non-venomous, but that's pretty rare. So the orchard spider does possess venom, but it's only strong enough to affect tiny insects. So now that we know this creature is harmless, let's take it out. All right, we'll see if we can get the spider to cooperate. They are quite fast, which could wind up being a problem. All right. There we go. So as I said, this is an orchard spider, and orchard spiders are part of a group of spiders known as the long-jawed orb-weavers. Long-jawed orb-weavers get their name because some species of the group have these super elongated, exaggerated fangs. It's really, really cool, and I hope to track some of those down on this channel at some point. Now, the orchard spider, though a member of the group, doesn't actually have really bigger fangs than a spider of its size would. But when it creates its web, it has one key difference from most other orb weavers. Most orb weaving spiders create a vertically oriented web, so they'll make that sticky trap in a space where they think insects are going to be flying through. The orchard spider creates a horizontally oriented web, and that's a bit of a mystery. I researched quite a bit as to why that is, and I really couldn't find a satisfactory answer. Now, a possible reason I can think of is that this spider creates its web in a somewhat unusual place, I guess. You know, most orb weavers spin their webs in very open spots. They tend to spin their webs in tight, foliage-thick areas. So perhaps, for some reason, a horizontal web is better at catching insects in those types of habitats. It sits at the center of the web, waiting for prey to stumble into the trap. Luckily for the spider, in the thick vegetation where the web is located, there are many insects living in the foliage. Eventually, one of them flies in the wrong direction and becomes entangled in the orchard spider's web. The hungry spider rushes down to the trapped bug and seizes it in its fangs. With the prey secured, the spider returns to the middle of the web to eat. This unique horizontal orb web proves to be quite effective at catching food for the spider. The delicate silk structure is almost invisible, so an insect will never see the web until it's too late. Now, when they spin their webs, it's actually pretty cool. They eat the web every single night. So they spin a web in the morning, they hopefully catch insects during the day, and then at night, they consume the entire web, and they use the silk they've eaten to produce more silk the next morning and make a new web. You see how she's actually very uncomfortable being on a solid surface like this, whether it be like a stick or my hand. It's because she's a web-building spider. She's not going to be spending most of her life on the ground, running around. She spins a web, and that's where she spends most of her time. So she's actually most comfortable hanging from silk like this. The orchard spider is one of the many creatures that, if you didn't really get down and look closely at nature, you could easily miss it. It's very tiny, but if you get on their level and observe them, they're fascinating animals. I mean, look how beautiful this creature is. There are creatures like this in your backyard, on your street, in your neighborhood park, but if you don't observe closely, you'll never really see them. But if you do really start to pay attention, you'll unlock another world, and it's very fascinating. The orchard spider is a fascinating inhabitant of nature that's hiding in plain sight. But it's not the only one. Check out my last video, where I came face to face with a beautiful caterpillar that had a painful secret. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you on the next adventure.